Welcome to an NFL episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Wader. You know that man next to me, the Austin Hill. NFL episode coming out first this week. College football episode is expected to come out tomorrow night. And ladies and gentlemen, that's an episode you are not going to want to miss because, Austin, would you mind reminding the people what week it is in college football?
Oh, it's rivalry week. And not only is it rivalry week, but we've got a bunch of chaos scenarios. You were warned last week. Let's just say that much. We will be talking about all the chaos that can possibly unfold and all of our conferences. What? SEC still undecided. ACC still undecided. Big Ten still undecided. Big 12 might be. I think Big 12 is decided.
It's
But
pretty
we're
much
gonna have a
decided, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I think surprisingly the Big 12 I think has the least chaos in relation to its conference championship.
If that doesn't tell you
At
how
this point.
wild this college football season is, that the Big 12 is the one with the least amount of chaos, I don't know what to tell you people.
So we've got a lot of fun. We're going to be bringing you all the different possible scenarios. We're going to be talking about all the big games. We're going to be highlighting all the big rivalry games, even the ones that maybe aren't the biggest teams right now. But you think about Iron Bowl, Alabama, Auburn, always a great game. We're going to be talking about it. Games like that, even though you're maybe seeing a top 10 team playing an unranked team, we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of excitement talking about these big rivalry games, what it means, talking about our different chaos scenarios, and it's just going to be a blast. If you love talking about the craziness of college football, if you like sticking around for that kind of stuff, that's what we're going to be talking about in the college football episode.
Yep, I'm sold. I'm sold. I'll be there, and we hope you all will be there and join us for that episode and talk about all those fun scenarios. Then we're not even talking about American Conference. Still has three teams tied for first up there.
True.
So the East Carolina dream did unfortunately die, but we'll dive more into all that in the episode tomorrow. You do not want to miss it. But this is the NFL episode. And before we dive into the NFL news, just some personal news for us that we kind of want to share across that came out today. For those of you who do not know about it, where we are from, we both come from Valonia, Arkansas, small town in Arkansas. And unfortunately, this past Saturday, we had a terrible situation happen that ultimately resulted in the passing of a former Valonia Eagle basketball player who was at Connor State doing well in Ethan Dietz. So we asked for you all just to please pray for his family, friends, and any of his teammates going through that, and for the entire Valonia community. We all pray for that.
Absolutely.
But let's dive into the NFL stuff. And this was really an interesting week of football, to say the least, in the NFL. Austin got a lot of games to dive into. And let's start with, as we always do, our biggest winners and losers from the slate. A lot of good candidates for both sides in this one, Austin. Let's start with the good one. What's the biggest winner you got from week 12 in the NFL?
I think it's a team we had expectations to maybe be talked about quite a bit more. But I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs here for the biggest winner. This was a big game against the team in the AFC right now. And they had the opportunity to basically kill them, bury them, and basically say goodbye to the Chiefs. If you watch the game on CBS, Tony Romo talked about it. He thinks the Chiefs have got one more loss, and then that's the last loss they can have. And I tend to agree. I think this team gets to 7 losses, and it's going to be very, very hard to make the
Mm-hmm.
postseason with all those teams right now that they'd be competing with having the tiebreaker. I know we talked about that a lot last week. So, basically every game is a playoff game for the Kansas City Chiefs starting this past weekend. And for them to not only win this game, but to win it in overtime with the big comeback effort in the fourth quarter. This is what you want to see. And I think even bigger to me is Patrick Mahomes. Sure, he had the 352 passing yards, but he definitely struggled. The pressure got to him. It was having an effect. But for this team to rely on Kareem Hunt, the 104 yards and the touchdown, even after the turnover that really could have put this Chiefs team out of this
Mm-hmm.
game. I think this was an all-around great effort, and this is the best effort I think we've seen from this Chiefs team all year long.
Absolutely. And we're going to dive more into that effort for both sides here in just a little bit. My biggest winner, Let's say it like it is, and I can't believe I am saying it, but yeah, here we are. Biggest winner, Dallas Cowboys. Just a phenomenal game there. Win over the Philadelphia Eagles, a great comeback. We're going to dive more into that here in just a little bit, but a great win for them to really say keep their season alive. Their season looked like it was on the brink of like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now they're kind of reviving it to at least give themselves a chance. So definitely a good job for them and getting them the biggest winner this week. Now, Austin, the one that there is plenty, and I mean plenty, of good candidates to go around for, the biggest loser from this past week in the NFL. Who do you got here?
Look, when I looked at it, I kind of thought about the Eagles. I kind of thought about the Colts. Some big opportunities for the Eagles, win that divisional game against a team I think you're much better than. Kind of a tough situation. But the Cowboys, like you said, are playing really good right now. Colts are playing the Kansas City Chiefs. Really, the biggest thing going for me was this is a chance to kind of solidify yourself. But the
Right.
team I'm really looking for, not to throw a bunch of names out there and kind of take away a bunch of options for you to talk about, but the team I really look at who had maybe the biggest to gain this weekend, especially with everything that unfolded on Sunday and Sunday night. I think the Carolina Panthers, I'm going to go ahead and
Mm-hmm.
notch as my biggest loser this week. And I know they're a 6-6 ball club. What do you mean, biggest loser? Um, this was a game where after Sunday night's dust was settled, they had the opportunity to be the number one team in their division and put themselves in line for a playoff spot. And instead, even with the forcing of a billion turnovers from Brock
Mm-hmm.
Purdy, I was screaming, take Brock Purdy out of this game.
Yeah.
3 interceptions in the first half is unbelievable. I think if I'm the 49ers, I might seriously, even after a win, I might seriously start to reevaluate what's going on at the quarterback position right now. It's nothing against Brock Purdy, but to come out and throw 3 interceptions in this game, not great, especially with,
Mm-mm.
I think this team's looked better with Mac Jones, just compared to the last couple games of Mac Jones and this game for Brock Purdy. I'd like to see a little bit better, but to force that many turnovers for your defense to play really that good in the first half and to have 3 points to show for it after the first half and 9 points total in this game, I think that's unfortunate. This was a huge opportunity for this team to put themselves in first place in this division, ride the momentum, take advantage of kind of the miscues and the gauntlet of a schedule that the Buccaneers have had as of late. And instead, they can't do it. Now they fall to 6-6, and the Buccaneers stay in charge of this division. I just think this is a huge missed opportunity this weekend for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, it really was. I'll go ahead and raise you up someone who had a great opportunity to kind of separate themselves a bit in the playoff field. I'll go to the AFC side and the one we're going to start with, and that's the Buffalo Bills for me. Just a rough performance that we're going to dive into right now. Talking about some of the games from this past week. Week 12, Thursday night football, the Texans very much keeping their season alive, taking down the Buffalo Bills 23-19 with Davis Mills at quarterback. And again, this is a chance for Buffalo to kind of gain some ground maybe on, on the Patriots. Maybe we can catch up to them here a little bit and stay right with them. But the Houston Texans had other plans. Josh Allen sacked 8 times in this game, was running for his life most of the night, and just a rough night for the Bills offensively. The Texans really just didn't have to screw up. Davis Mills only threw for 153 yards, but 2 touchdowns. You don't turn the ball over. It's led to a great win for the Texans. That put them, Austin. Let's not forget, this is a team that started the year 0-3, and it looked like a team that was very much dead in the water. The offensive line was terrible. The defense was having to carry so much. And fact of the matter is, Austin, that's still the case here. The only difference is they've been able to pull out 3 wins in their last 4 wins in their last 5 games to kind of turn the season around. 6-5, very much in the playoff picture. But I mean, your thoughts on it from Thursday night, from what was probably honestly the best primetime game we've had in a while, because primetime games have been rough the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Um, I think this was kind of unfortunate for the Bills because, I will say in, the prior 3 losses this season, you look at it and you say, Josh Allen did all he could. He really willed his team into this game, and it just came down to, a lack of execution everywhere else. But in this game, to me, you see James Cook, the big game he had, Khalil Shakur, huge over 100 yards receiving. The defense played all right. Josh Allen, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns in this game. I'll say this. I know Josh Allen's kind of catching a lot of flack after this weekend, but we're talking about a reigning MVP. And I think personally, I'd be okay with my football team every once in a while losing a game because Josh Allen gets a little wild, throws a couple interceptions. If it means the consistency and the success that these Bills have had since Josh Allen's got there, I think all of a sudden this happens across the league, across sports when big athletes have a bad game people start to think, well, are they really that good? And you start to catch a lot of flack for being the superstar. But it is unfortunate that Josh Allen really seemed to be kind of the fault in this game. But that's not often the case with Josh Allen and this Buffalo Bills. And I've just been impressed with the way these last 2 weeks the Texans have played with Davis Mills. Like you said, not doing anything too huge, but two passing touchdowns. He's managing the game, taking advantage of the opportunities. He's doing exactly what you need your backup quarterback to do. He's not going to come out there and have the big numbers that the star quarterback has. But if he can just come out there, control the game, and makes the throws he needs to make, that's a good backup quarterback. And that's what Davis Mills has done for this team.
Absolutely. And now things get a little bit more dicey for Buffalo. They have a matchup against another team that is looking to bounce back from a loss and keep their playoff hopes alive. And let's dive into it, Austin. The Bold Take Podcast Bowl from Sunday. Bears winning it 31-28. Of course, as much as you wanted him to play so y'all could beat him, Aaron Rodgers did not play in this game. Mason Rudolph did start. Uh, We'll say for the non-biased fans that are not me and you, this is a great game. Great action back and forth.
Yeah.
Both teams made some big plays in the game. Um, Fact of the matter is, the Steelers' offense, when it needed to most execute in the game, was not able to execute when it mattered most. And the Bears get yet another great win. My goodness. I mean, I keep on talking about it with the Chicago Bears, just how effective they have been in these close games. Uh, I do have a stat here for that I thought was kind of interesting. Talking about the Bears, Bears in games decided by 5 points or fewer this year, or in the last 2 years. And last year, in games decided by 5 points or fewer, 1-6 in those games. This year, Chicago Bears have flipped it completely around. Now 6-1 in games decided by 5 points or more. And Austin, this is one that I think was very important. Chicago has a plus 12 turnover margin in the 7 games this year. That's something else that's helped them out a lot. But your thoughts for Chicago Bears now sitting at 8-3, and not only are you sitting at 8-3, Austin, not looking at the division lead, you're looking at one of the top spots in the entire NFC for the playoff picture right now. How are you feeling?
I feel really good. Look, the way this team's playing right now is awesome. You're seeing like time and time again, uh, this team come through. Whether it's the defense, whether it's the offense. Look, Caleb Williams has really shown, in my opinion, that he is built for this. He's playing really well in crunch time. It doesn't matter how the game's gone. When he needs to come out and make a play, he does. And that's the same thing for this defense. Look, you talk about the 12 plus 12 in the turnover margin. I mean, here's where it comes from. Kevin Byard and N'Keal Wright tied with 5 interceptions in the NFL right now. Only player tied with them, J.C. Horn, 5 interceptions. So 3 guys tied for 5 interceptions at the top. 2 of them play for the Chicago Bears. And then sitting tied for second place, Tremaine Edmonds with 4 interceptions. So right there, we're talking about 14 interceptions between 3 guys on this defense. I think it's been incredible the way this defense has stepped up. And you think about it, haven't had Jalen Johnson a lot this year. Haven't had Kyler Gordon a lot this year. Both those guys a little bit banged up right now. But for this team to be playing this well right now, it just shows the kind of defensive playmakers that we have. We're forcing, making tough decisions. And look, that's when you got guys who can get that many turnovers, who can cause that much trouble, you're never out of any ball game. And I think that's what we've seen this year for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I will say that as well. Like I've been impressed with it. Didn't enjoy being on this side of it, watching the Bears win the game. I can't lie. But as far as the game goes, it's gotten to a point with me, Austin, at least just me, honestly, where it's just the same stuff happening to the Steelers every single week in these games. And I sit there, it's like, I feel nothing. Like it's the same stuff every single week. For those who haven't seen, Dan Orlovsky talks about it. third down and 5. I think it was from like the 41-yard line was the picture that kind of went viral on Twitter. Third down and 5 from the 41, and you got the entire Steelers defense dropping back 10 yards deep, just giving up the easy plays. And, it's frustrating talking about it. And then you had Mike Tomlin today, whenever he was asked, about, um, his thoughts about it, because it's a clip that went viral on Twitter. And all he had to say for it, when asked about it was, I'm not going to peel back the layers of how we function from a schematic standpoint, although I am impressed by the depths of the questions y'all are asking me. So, I mean, he's never going to change. It's just going to be that same stuff that keeps on happening. Now, here's my question to Arthur Smith as well. I don't hate him as much as the last guy who was the OC. I won't say his name. His name is not allowed to be said on the Bold Take podcast. I refuse to hear that name ever again, or it cannot be mouthed either. I got my eyes on you over there. But talking about late game situations where it hurt this team, Austin. You watched the game. Bears get the three and out. Steelers get the ball back. They're going to have one timeout down by 3. And then they have to waste a timeout because they're not set up right on punt return coverage. They had to waste a timeout with like 2 minutes left on that. So now you go into the 2-minute drill with no timeouts. And so on like 3rd and 6 with the game on the line, we're throwing 2-yard routes to DK Metcalf to do nothing. And then instead of using the one timeout to call the best play, the clock's running. It's 4th and 4. You got to scramble, try to run a play at the last second. And it was a great play by, I think it was Kevin Byard who deflected that pass at the end of the game, I think is who it was. It was a great play by him, but it's ultimately the same stuff with the Steelers. Again, at this point, I feel nothing. And we're not going to talk about the game, but I'll go ahead and say it. The Ravens beat the Jets, which means the Ravens have taken over first place in the AFC North. And don't worry, Pittsburgh. It gets really easy from here on out. You still got to play the Ravens twice. You got the Bills, the Lions, and then the Dolphins, who are looking better as the weeks go along. So, I'm not mad. I'm not that mad. I feel nothing. So, on that note, I'm tired of talking about it. Let's talk about an entertaining game that happened in Austin. The famous Jameis experience continues to be one of the most fun in the NFL. The 2-9 Giants gave the Detroit Lions all they had, and it unfortunately ended the undefeated streak of the Lions covering the spread following a loss. It was a good run. I think it was like 13 or 14 straight games following a loss. They've been incredible. But in this game, Jameis Winston was awesome, making throws down the field, and not only that, Austin, making big receptions down the field as well. But the end of the day, the Giants self-destruct in the fourth quarter again, Austin. It's been the story of the season for this New York Giants team, and they could not stop Jahmyr Gibbs. 219 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns in the game to go along with 45 yards receiving and a touchdown. And the Lions escape in overtime against the Giants. But this was a far more entertaining game than I think anybody expected it to be.
Yeah, I agree. I was watching Kansas City and Indianapolis play, and they just kept flashing back to this game and what's going on in this game and all the craziness and all the highlights. And I felt like every time they flashed to this game, something just you've never seen in the history of a football game or you never thought you'd see is happening. Jameis Winston going one-on-one, mossing a defender and shaking him off and stumbling into the end zone is just something I never thought I'd see, especially at this stage in his NFL career. For this Giants team to be 0-2 with Jameis Winston as a starting quarterback, but a 1,000 times better team than we've seen in the last few weeks, it's like peak Jameis Winston experience. You're just like a great football team all of a sudden, but you just can't win.
Yeah, I mean it brings all the pure entertainment to football. That's why even though the Giants play the Patriots on Monday night, you're like, oh my gosh, really? That's the game that's on Monday Night Football next week? If Jameis Winston starts, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be an entertaining football game. Let's just say it like it is. But the Lions get the win here. They have a massive showdown this Thursday on Thanksgiving that we are going to talk about here in a little bit, but a big win for them. Now let's dive a little bit more into it. You talked about it. Chiefs. Austin, they finally did it. They won a one-score game, taking down the Colts 23-20 in overtime. And kind of like you mentioned, there were points in this game where it felt like the Colts were going to pull away. You know, you score those touchdowns, you get up 14-3 early, then you score two field goals, you're up 20-9, enter in the fourth quarter. You're feeling really good about your chances here. But then the Chiefs with some clutch drives late in the game and then some great defensive stops that ultimately led to a Harrison Butker walk-off field goal. And I'll agree with what you said and what Tony Romo said. There really are not many more losses that the Chiefs could afford. Like probably just one. And looking at the schedule for the Chiefs, just to add a little bit more to it, their schedule obviously have the Cowboys this Thursday. Then they play the Texans on Sunday Night Football. That game just got a whole lot bigger for the playoff picture, if I do say so myself.
Yep.
Then they play the Chargers, who had already beaten them this year. Then you got the Titans. Then on Christmas night, you're taking on the Broncos at home. And then you got the Raiders to end the season. So there's a couple games that will probably be givens for the Chiefs to win. But there's a couple in here that I'm looking at and you think, yeah, you beat the Colts. Nowhere close to being done yet because you got to continue to win to even give yourselves a remote chance of making the postseason here.
Yeah, I agree. And look, it's a tough schedule, and for most teams, it'd be like, well, I guess we're probably just not going to the playoffs. But this is the Kansas City Chiefs we're talking
Yeah.
about, and this is Patrick Mahomes we're talking about. Making the plays. Look, if you watch this game, the big thing I say, pressure Patrick Mahomes. It looks like that's the one thing that's maybe gotten to him this season. But look, Kareem Hunt really dug deep and made some big
Yeah.
plays. Rasheed Rice made a lot of plays in man coverage. It's going to be tough. It is going to be very, very tough for the Kansas City Chiefs. But if there's any team in the NFL that's built to make a run and make it to the postseason, back against the wall, I think it's Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs is the team you'd take if you said you couldn't lose another regular season game.
Yeah, if there was going to be anybody I'd bet on to do it, I 100% agree with you. I think it'd be the Chiefs. The thing that I think hurt the Colts in this game, Austin, no one's really talking about, DeForest Buckner. Let's remember, he went on IR early in November for a neck injury. And so he wasn't in the middle of that defense to really kind of cause some issue there for the Colts. So I guess my question for you is, if they're not able to get DeForest Buckner back, and you look at the schedule for the Colts to end the year, one of the toughest ones to end the regular season. You got the Texans this Sunday. You're at Jacksonville, at Seattle, hosting the 49ers, and then you got the Jaguars, and then on the road to Texans to end the season. Not an easy schedule at all to end the year for the Colts. But if you're not able to get DeForest Buckner back, do you have some worries for maybe a little bit of a slip from the Colts to end this season?
I think there's certainly cause for concern. I think the most fortunate thing for them is they do have other great defensive line pieces. And Grover Stewart made some big plays against Kansas City this past weekend. So I think there's certainly things to be worried about. But you think about a team like the Houston Texans, and although they're playing really good right now, their offensive line is still really bad. You probably don't need to force Buckner in those games to be able to make a difference and force some pressure on the quarterback with the defensive line pieces that they have. But yeah, I agree. I think you're a little bit concerned if you don't have DeForest Buckner for the long term. Obviously, he's a guy they want to keep around. He's a guy that they've made a big commitment to. So I think obviously it's going to hurt, but I don't think it's going to be make or break for this team. I think they have a good enough good pieces and enough guys to make a difference. That it's going to take more than just missing DeForest Buckner for this team to play that much worse on that defensive front.
Yeah, and don't forget their offense. Jonathan Taylor only had 58 yards rushing in this game. That has been a rarity, ladies and gentlemen, for Jonathan Taylor to have less than 100 yards in a game. I think that's the first game he had less than 100 yards rushing in since I think the Pittsburgh game a week or two ago, where he only had 45 yards rushing. But it has been a rarity for him. We'll see what the Colts can do. But the Texans and Jaguars are on their trail in this division race in the AFC South. Just got a little bit tighter with the result of this one. Another game. Talk about. Let's dive into the afternoon slate. The only game that was really interesting from this afternoon slate, if I'm going to be honest with you, and that was the Dallas Cowboys. Austin came back from a 21-0 deficit against the Philadelphia Eagles. And the way this game started, Austin, it looked exactly like we thought it was. They would overpower them. This Eagles offense is clicking. And then, Austin, it's the story of the entire season for the Eagles where, you know, the offense just stalls and stalls and stalls. And they just can't get anything going. And against a normal team, that probably doesn't hurt you. But the Cowboys, listen, as mediocre as the Cowboys are, they've got one of the best offenses in the NFL. And you give them chance after chance, they're going to make things interesting late in the game. And so, honestly, I'm very impressed with the Cowboys. Kind of what I talked about earlier, saving their season, very much keeping their season alive at 5-5. And now for Philly, it sets up a very interesting showdown on Black Friday with a team that you're very familiar with. But your thoughts on this comeback win for the Cowboys to keep their playoff hopes alive?
I thought this was a good effort, and like you said, defensively this team isn't much, but offensively they're one of the best in the league. They've got two of the top receivers. They've got, I'll go top 15 quarterback. Um, can't go top 10 for Dak Prescott. I'm sorry to any Cowboys fans out there. I just can't do it. But he makes the plays. And I think the big thing about Dak Prescott is he made a lot of plays that I feel like we haven't seen since the bad ankle injury.
Right.
Just really getting out of the pocket. That rushing touchdown he had in this game where he got out of the pocket and just took off. I feel like he's been, smartly a little bit more concerned about his health running the football, and so he doesn't, always try to use that athleticism like we saw at Mississippi State and like we saw early in his career. But he really looked good in this game, and he's looked good this season. The offense is there. The defense is the problem. But when the Eagles do what they do, like you said, it's not necessarily this defense made great plays. Not that they played bad either in this game. Obviously, they won, and they didn't give up any points in the second half. But this Eagles offense just finds ways to get in its own way. And you're just wondering, where is Saquon Barkley at this season? I talked about not being worried about it early in the season. He'll find his footing. But seriously, Jalen Hurts, 7 attempts, 33 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's your leading rusher.
Mm.
Half those yards are tush-push yards. Like, seriously, those touchdowns are, short little rushing touchdowns. Where is Saquon Barkley to hurt this team in the run? And the rest of Jalen Hurts' attempts are on scrambles. Like, they're not running handoffs to Jalen Hurts. The for real run game of the Eagles is just not there. Hurts is making the plays when he has to, but where is Saquon Barkley, or where is someone else who can step up and kind of carry this rushing offense? Because again, you start to stall out when it's drop back, drop back, drop back, contain the quarterback, play good defense in the secondary, and you got nothing to worry about. You just don't even have to think about the run game right now for the Eagles, is what it feels like. To have one of the best running backs in the NFL and him just producing nothing right now. A guy who we talked about as should have been the MVP last year, and just for him to kind of disappeared for the most part this season. I think that's the biggest struggle and the biggest concern for me with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, no, obviously, in case you have lived under a rock, ladies and gentlemen, the Philadelphia Eagles have wanted the offensive coordinator fired, Kevin Patullo. Apparently, from what I've heard, he is still going to be sticking with him to call plays this week, so we'll see where that goes. But I talked about it, Austin. Let's just look at it. This is every single drive following the touchdown to go up 21-0 for the Eagles. Punt, end of half, punt, 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 missed field goal, fumble, punt. I mean, they're just not able to get anything consistent offensively, and the game hurts them there. And again, against like maybe an average or mediocre offense, that's fine. Like, that won't hurt you. But when you're playing these really good offensive teams and these good teams as a whole, it can hurt you in some of these games that those offenses are clicking. So the rest of their schedule doesn't look too challenging. So they'll still probably end up winning this NFC East. But you remember the start of the season, Austin, everyone was talking about what's wrong with Jalen Hurts. What's wrong with him? What's going on with him? I think the question people should have been asking then is, what's wrong with this Philadelphia ground game? Because like you said, last year, Philly ran the ball so well. It worked so well. It made the offense great. It made Jalen Hurts great. Whenever you can't run the ball, are you surprised Jalen Hurts hasn't been able to carry the load of the offense on his own? Like, are we supposed to be surprised about that? So, I mean,
I,
it's just a rough stretch right there for the Eagles. They got to get this run game going if they want any chance of repeating.
I'll go this far. Jalen Hurts has had some rough games, but I'd say over the last 2 or 3 weeks, Jalen Hurts has looked like a top five quarterback in this
Mm-hmm.
NFL. He threw for 289 yards this past week. He ran for 33 and two touchdowns. He's making the plays. But again, when you have no other rushing offense, eventually, I mean, we saw it in the second half of this game. Hurts torches them, and then you just run contain and drop everybody back because you don't have to worry about the rush. You don't have to worry about the running backs at all. And they just take away all the options. It's look, I know it sounds like I'm making it too simple, but really that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
We're just seeing deny Jalen Hurts to throw the football, take away his ability to scramble, and Saquon Barkley just has not been able to hurt teams this year, or anybody running the football has not been able to hurt teams this year. That's the problem. I think Jalen Hurts is playing just fine. Again, we both came to his defense at the start of this season after what he did in the postseason and in the Super Bowl for this team. But I think the big issue and the big worry and the big concern is where this rushing offense is. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm looking at Saquon's stats on the year. Has one game this year where he has over 100 yards rushing. One game, and that was against the New York Giants. Besides that, has not even eclipsed 100 yards rushing in any other game this year for them. But we'll worry more about that with Philly, something to keep an eye on later this week. Let's talk about it. Sunday Night Football. You hinted at it a little bit when talking about the Panthers. My goodness, me and you came into this game thinking this was going to be a great shootout between two great quarterbacks. No one bothered telling the Los Angeles Rams it was supposed to be a close game. They throttle Tampa Bay. This thing was over at halftime. It was 31-7 Rams at halftime, a 34-7 final. And the big story of the game, Matthew Stafford looking great, Devontae Adams looking awesome, and this defense for the Rams continuing to cause issues. And just a fun fact for you, Austin, with Devontae Adams, his first touchdown pass in the game, his first touchdown catch in the game, he passed Jimmy Graham for the most career 1 yard touchdown catches in NFL history in that game. Yeah, shout out Jimmy Graham for no reason. Shout out to him. And also Devontae Adams with this game moved into eighth place on the all-time receiving touchdowns list in NFL history. So a big congrats to him. But the Rams flat out dominated Tampa Bay in this game. And before we dive into it with Tampa Bay, because there's a lot of question marks still, let's give the Rams their due, Austin. They played great in this game. And I got to ask you, now after the last couple weeks with the Colts, are we looking at the best team in football right now in Los Angeles right now?
I think they look so good right now. Like you said, you kind of talk about how this offense looks, how this defense looks. Everything's firing on all cylinders. I can't think of a better team that's playing great all-around football than the Los Angeles Rams right now.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And they proved it on Sunday night. Talking about with the Buccaneers. Story of this game, the big takeaway, last play of the first half, Baker Mayfield heaves up a Hail Mary, and it basically looked like he just threw his arm out. And I think me, you, and the rest of the country all just went, uh-oh. Oh, no. Fortunately, the news came out. It's just a sprained AC joint, no structural damage or anything. And they're not entirely ruling him out of missing or playing this Sunday against the Cardinals. So I don't think it's going to be nothing that'll keep Baker Mayfield out. But Austin, let's remember, this is the same injury Baker Mayfield had that ultimately led to his time in Cleveland ending. I don't think Tampa's going to get rid of him because they signed that big deal and they actually are a competent franchise. But with a team, Austin, where everyone else has been injured the whole year, it's been, well, we can always count on Baker being healthy. Now Baker's not going to be 100% probably. I mean, does that put even more concerns than you already had with this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team?
I mean, yeah, this has been unfortunate. Right now, I'd say the big thing is pretty much nobody else in your division is competent. Right now, this was, an opportunity. I mean, Falcons and Saints, barring a miracle, are probably. I know Falcons are only 2 games ish back right now,
But yeah,
technically. But that's basically because somebody had to win that Falcon and Saints
right,
game. I
right.
guess not because it's not in the NFL, but I don't know. That's usually you don't see that. Um, it's just yeah, it's concerning. Because at least we've seen throughout the season Baker Mayfield can still make the plays with pretty much whoever he puts on the field. But if Baker's hurt now, we saw just how much Teddy Bridgewater struggled to get going
Yeah.
this past week. So yeah, I think obviously the more injuries you get to like the core of this team, and all your big time playmakers, obviously the more concern that's going to grow right now in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, we'll see what they can do. We'll see if he starts this Sunday against the Cardinals. And then also they gotta get ready because week 16 and week 18, they play the Panthers and probably, let's say like it is, they're two only truly meaningful games the rest of the year. You beat the Panthers in both those games, you're gonna win the division. You'll be in the playoffs no matter what end of the year. But let's talk about these Panthers Monday Night Football. You hinted at it a bit. Absolutely, I agree with what you said at the start of the show. This was an opportunity for the Panthers. And, you force the three turnovers in the first half, and yet the offense just can't get anything going. And here's why, Austin. Tell me in an offense that's been so great running the football, why the heck is Rico Dowdle only getting 6 carries offensively? Like, like this is a game where you were down the whole time. You can still run the football plenty in this game. And they just couldn't do it. Bryce Young made some more mistakes in this game that ultimately hurt them. Um, I kind of said it to whenever I was talking about it to myself last night. I was like, I don't think either team, either the Panthers or Niners in this game, can walk away going, "Wow, we feel really good about our quarterback performances in this game." No, the only thing you can look at and say, "Man, that was really good," was both defenses and then Christian McCaffrey coming to the rescue for the 49ers in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the defenses looked great. Honestly, this was an awesome game if your name is J.C. Horn. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
the two interceptions in this game got him tied now for first in interceptions in the NFL with two Chicago Bears. Yeah, awesome performance from J.C. Horn. Uh, it, this was this was a bad game, like you said. Quarterback performance not ideal. I'm not saying bench Brock Purdy right away, but I
Right.
think you seriously do have to start to kind of consider what are you going to do uh at quarterback? Are you just going to let this like you really got to start comparing. Mac Jones wasn't like top 10 quarterback caliber, but he was winning games. He was doing his job. He wasn't throwing
Right.
three interceptions in the first half of football games, and that was
Mm-hmm.
with a banged up roster. Brock Purdy really had no excuses to go out there and play as bad as he did, and yet he had a poor performance. So, with Carolina, it's kind of whatever. I mean, you can't be happy with the way Bryce Young played. But it's not exactly, again, this isn't a team that should have as high as
Right.
expectations as we're putting
Right.
on them right now. But for the 49ers, I think this is no excuse, just a bad situation. I think you need to get it figured out because you're competing in the NFC, you're kind of competing in your division. You can't start to spiral out of control here.
No, I don't think you can either. And talking about with the Niners, Austin, you've got the Browns this week, this Sunday. You should be able to win that game, even if Brock Purdy plays like he does. Then you got the bye week. Then you play the Titans. But Austin, this last 3 game stretch for the Niners might be one of the toughest final 3 game stretches I've seen to end the season ever. You're at the Indianapolis Colts on Monday Night Football. The next week, you're hosting the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football. And then to end the season, you're hosting the Seattle Seahawks, who will know depending on when that game is. I don't know when that game will be. But that's 3 playoff teams right there to end the season. I mean, it almost feels like Austin, they got to beat the Browns, they got to beat the Titans, and then they got to at least get one of those 3. And I don't know if they can do that with Brock Purdy playing the way he's been playing. So the good news for them is they have a bye week in week 14, so maybe that can lead more time for Brock Purdy to get healthy. But I'm with you. I mean, there's worries, especially as we look into this NFC playoff picture. We dive into it. Rams now full control, first place in the NFC, the number 1 seed. Eagles and Bears tied for the 2 seed right now. We'll get that one figured out. Who's going to get second place on Black Friday? Buccaneers at 6-5. Then you got the wild card. Seahawks, Packers, Niners are right there. But Austin, let's say like it is. Detroit Lions still on the outside looking in. They are very much looking forward to trying to get a big win against Green Bay and just keep up with the Niners because they know they win down the stretch with some of these games. Their schedule compared to the 49ers is pretty much easier, and they could probably sneak into that 7 seed at the end of the season or get that 6 seed.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're looking for an opportunity to get in. I think a team they might be eyeballing even more than that. Not just that the Niners will have a tough run here down the stretch, but Green Bay. You think about they've got
Mm-hmm.
matchups with Chicago down the road. They get to play each other again this coming weekend, or actually Thanksgiving Day. So and the Packers have not played the prettiest football all season. I think that's another team that they're circling. They're like, hey, we know we could do some damage against this team. We know how they've been playing. That's an opportunity to take, matters into your own hands, really. And then when the tough schedule that the Green Bay Packers are going to have these next few weeks. So yeah, I think they're looking at the teams in 6 and 7 right now and saying, hey, we keep our footing and we keep going. One of these two teams is going to make mistakes. They don't have any more room to make errors as long as we keep succeeding. And we know both of these two teams have a little bit of a tough stretch coming up for the rest of the season. So yeah, I think they've got those two teams circled, and they're just waiting on basically the other shoe to drop and one of these teams to fall out.
Yeah, pretty much. And another thing for the Packers, don't forget, they play the Broncos in a couple weeks, and then they play the Ravens. So, again, like you said, not an easy schedule. I guess here's my question for you. Lions, Niners, Packers, those three teams, Austin. If I had to ask you right now, which of those teams are you confident the most in missing the playoffs based on the schedule left and what we've seen from the teams? If you had to pick one, which one are you picking that will be the odd man out and miss the postseason?
Oof. I think you've got to circle San Francisco right now, just after what we saw this past weekend. Um, but I mean, this is not an easy stretch for Green Bay here. Detroit, Chicago, Denver. And look, at Detroit, host Chicago, at Denver, at Chicago, host Baltimore, and then at Minnesota. There's one win for sure in there against Minnesota. You split the Chicago games. And best case scenario, you split the Chicago games. I think. I don't think either team's probably going to sweep. I think that'll be
Right.
a
I would agree with
split.
that.
Um, Baltimore's not going to be easy. Denver's not going to be easy, especially at Denver. At Detroit's going to be a tough game. I think right now I'd say if I had to pick one, life on the line, I'm going to say the 49ers. But the Green Bay Packers, look, last week is a little bit a breath of new life for them. It's probably the best performance they've had in I'd say the last 4 weeks since they beat the Steelers. I think that's the best
Right.
game they've played. Um, but yeah, I think that the Green Bay Packers are not far behind as far as a team that I'm a little bit worried about down this difficult stretch.
Yeah, honestly, again, I think it'll be either Packers or Niners who miss out. I'm very intrigued with that game this Thursday, which we're going to talk more about in just a second. That one will really tell the tale of how much pressure is going to be on the Green Bay Packers down the stretch here. But you talked about some of the teams in the AFC. Current picture: the Patriots, the first team in the NFL this year. Austin, if I would have asked you, who do you think is going to be the first team to double-digit wins this year? Who do you think? You would have been wrong because it's the New England Patriots right up there at 10-2, the first team to get double-digit wins on the season. Broncos at 9-2. They had a bye week this week, didn't play, and they got the Colts at 8-3. And then the 4 seed, the new spot, is the Baltimore Ravens there. After the 1-5 start, they have gotten red hot and have saved their season very much on the line and can win this AFC North. Wild card picture, Austin, with some of the results this weekend got very interesting. You've got Chargers, Jaguars, and Bills all there at 7-4 as the teams. But we look at the picture. You've got the Texans at 6-5, the Steelers at 6-5, and the Chiefs at 6-5, all one game back of those three teams right there. So this AFC is going to be a phenomenal finish to see who can sneak in. We all think Kansas City's going to sneak in somehow. But let's say like it is, we can't rule out Buffalo missing the playoffs. Jacksonville has looked inconsistent as freaking anything this season. And then you got the Chargers with all their injury issues. I mean, there's a flaw with all six of these teams that are fighting for wild card spots in the AFC.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the craziest part to me right now is with everything that's going on. I don't know which half of these six teams gets in and which half are going to be sitting at home when playoff time comes. Because, like you said, there's nothing perfect about any one of these teams. It's not like well, like we just talked about with the NFC. I think we can both agree that Seattle is going to make the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely.
Barring just a spiral, they're going to make the playoffs. They're too good. I think we can even go as far as to say, even though Detroit's kind of had a tough shake in some of those big games they played this year, we both probably expect them to get in.
Yes.
And we really just think of it right now as a battle between Green Bay and San Francisco as who's going to get in. But yeah, in the AFC, it's like, well, sure, the Chargers have looked really, really great, but then they've also played really, really bad this season. Jacksonville, I'd say, is in that same boat. Buffalo is there. And then you look at Houston playing good right now. What happens when CJ Stroud comes back? Does he get
Mm-hmm.
back into a rhythm?
Mm-hmm.
And how does this offensive line hold up over the rest of this season? Obviously, it's the biggest concern. When does Aaron Rodgers come back for Pittsburgh? What do they do in the meantime? Does this defense continue to play consistently? I think that's even been another big concern. And then for Kansas City, sure, you're firing on all cylinders right now, but yeah, you don't have a lot of mistakes left in the tank after the way they started this season. So yeah, it's a lot to see here with these last six teams, and you really just don't know who's going to get in because just as many reasons as I could give you for why I think three of these will get in and three will go home is just as many reasons I could give you why they'll be going home instead of making the playoffs.
Yeah, this playoff run is going to be interesting to say the least for both sides here. But let's dive into some game picks here, Austin. A lot more game picks than usual because, well, it's a special week, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving to you all that listen to us every single week, sit here and talk sports. We are very thankful for it, and we very much appreciate you all joining us for it. So let's talk some football on Thanksgiving. Always a thing we can count on to be thankful for. And let's start, Austin, with the one that we were hinting at. Packers and Lions kicking things off at noon on Thanksgiving. We talked about this game enough. Both these teams right at the edge of the playoff picture. If either one wants to get in, and if either one wants to keep up with Chicago, they've got to get this game here on Thanksgiving. And all of you want to be like, well, Green Bay dominated week one. Week one was a long time ago with Detroit, where we wondered, is this Lions offense even good? We've been proven that it is. 2 weeks into the season, we all thought Green Bay was maybe the best team in the NFC. It's been proven they are not. So a lot of things have changed here. What do you see happening in this first matchup on Thanksgiving Day?
Look, I think another big factor you talked about that first game of the season in Green Bay. This one's in Detroit. I think a lot of momentum, a lot of things have changed about these teams. One side's kind of figured themselves out, one side's kind of slipping up. I think it's a bad time to be coming to Ford Field on Thanksgiving. You know it's going to be packed, division game, going to be exciting. And look, for as good as the Packers defense looked in that week one game, we've seen all kinds of holes pop up into what happens with this defense. We've even seen Michael Parsons not be as impactful in the last few weeks. So it's going to be very interesting for me to see this game and the way it's played. But I think at home in Detroit, second look at them, the Detroit Lions get the job done. I think we'll see a fun game, an exciting game, really a close game. But I think the Detroit Lions get that little boost from the home fans, and they make that play to put them up, I don't know, 9, 10, 11-ish points to win this game.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. Ladies and gentlemen, I am getting ready to trademark the phrase. If you don't know what the phrase is, I don't know what to tell you with it. And it is that I do not doubt Dan Campbell. And kind of similar to what you said, week one, a long time ago, Detroit's been thinking about this one since week one and knowing what's
Agreed.
at stake in this one for both sides. I'm going to agree with you. With it being a home game in Detroit, I'm going to pick the Lions to win this game. It was always funny, Austin. You think about our entire lives growing up. This was kind of Lions, I mean, I guess we'll throw it on. We won't really pay too much attention to this one on Thanksgiving. No one's going to. Where now it's each time the Lions play on Thanksgiving, it's a massive, massive football game there. So both of us going with Detroit. The afternoon one, Austin, I will just go ahead and say it. This will break the record for the most watched regular season game in NFL history. I will just flat out say that right now. And I don't think it's because both teams are the best, but the teams are the teams. Let's say it like it is. Chiefs heading to Dallas to take on the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Look, these are two great teams that are vying for playoff opportunities, both on the outside looking in right now. Both are desperate for this one. The Chiefs coming off finally winning a one-score game, and the Cowboys with their two best performances really of the season the last 2 weeks. This is going to be an interesting one in Dallas because of so many reasons that I just said. Question is, Austin, who wins this one in Jerry World?
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a close game. You talk about two teams that I think are really going to battle with each other and try and figure out, who gets in, who doesn't. Because, yeah, this is, like you said, both teams vying for a spot. I think this could very well be the loser of this game. This is where they look back and say, hey, this is where our season ended. This is the game. Neither one of these teams can really afford this loss. Of course, there's still chances for both of them to make it, even with losing this game. But I think it gets a lot harder. Like we talked about earlier with Romo saying they can really only afford one loss in Kansas City. I think the same is true for Dallas Cowboys with the way everything looks right now. I think the Cowboys lose one more game this season, they're done.
Yeah.
I'd go even further. So really, for both of these teams, you don't want to lose this game. You want to further the momentum that both of these teams have created and try and win. I think ultimately we see the Dallas Cowboys continue on and they win a close one here in Jerry World and they get pushed just a little bit through and win this game. I think they find a way to get the job done against Kansas City.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be in the minority with this pick, but I agree with everything you said. I think in this game, I think the Chiefs offense can come ready to play. It's a higher scoring affair. But if I'm being honest, Austin, I'm and I'm gonna can't believe I'm saying this. I almost feel like I want to slap myself to make sure I'm saying it. I think the Cowboys are playing the better football right now. I think they're executing better as a team more than the Kansas City Chiefs in the matchup. So as crazy as to say, I'm with you. I'm picking the Cowboys to win this game on Thanksgiving. I think you'll see the Cowboys try to get in a room. I think the big thing with the Chiefs is they still have some confidence against some division opponents. Like you said with Dallas, I mean, you play the Lions next Thursday. That's not going to be an easy matchup. Vikings, maybe you win that one. Chargers, I don't know. And then maybe Commanders and Giants. So it feels like in this NFC, like you said, with the bigger gap between the teams on the outside to the end, I feel like Dallas is the more desperate team. So I'm with you. I'm going to pick the Cowboys in this game. Then the night game, the evening matchup in the AFC North, Ravens and Bengals. I know what you're thinking, Austin. Why are you talking about this one? It's Ravens and Bengals. The Bengals are 3-8. Well, a little birdie has told me and all but confirmed to me that Joe Burrow will be making his return from his toe injury in this game, which factors in a bunch of things. Now, I will be honest with you. I don't think Joe Burrow should be playing out here with the team at 3-8. But the Bengals with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and this offense back together, offense is going to come ready to play. And I'm worried for the Ravens. The Ravens offense has not looked good the last couple of weeks. And now facing a good offense in the Bengals, this is going to be a good one, I think, on that evening slate on Thanksgiving night. Who wins this AFC North matchup, Austin?
I think fortunately the blessing is, though the Ravens offense hasn't played good, they will be matching up against the Bengals defense. So I think that opens the door for them. I think it's going to be a close game with Joe Burrow returning. Like you said, it's going to be, the offense gets that boost. They get their star quarterback back, and he gets to link up with his favorite targets, guys he's got great connections with. But I'm still going to pick the Ravens in this game. They're riding high, riding the momentum. I just think they're the better team. They're going to be able to take advantage of the shortcomings of this Bengals defense. I like Baltimore in this one.
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be respected. But if the Pittsburgh Steelers want any chance to win this division, I need Joe Burrow to get it together and put up the greatest comeback performance I've ever seen in his life. So for that reason, I'm going to take Cincinnati in this game 24-20. I'll even give you a score. I think they can win this game 24-20. Again, I think the Bengals offense, I hope, comes ready to play. My thing is the Bengals defense played pretty solid against Drake May and the Patriots last week. It wasn't perfect, but it wasn't also terrible. And again, this Ravens offense has had its question marks throughout most of the season. Um, I'm rooting for a shootout because I have Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in fantasy. So I'm hoping for a shootout where it's, the over of
Yeah.
52 and a half clears by a mile. And this is a game in the 70s and 80s. But yeah, why not? I'll pick the Bengals in this game. Why not? Sue me. I don't care. But Black Friday, this is the big one right here, Austin, especially for you. You got the 8-3 Bears heading to Philly to take on the 8-3 Eagles. Pure and simple, Austin. Winner of this game is in control of the 2 seed in the NFC playoffs as of now. My goodness. I don't know how else to hype this up more for you. Tell us about your Bears, and obviously we know where you're going to lean in, but why you think your Bears are going to go into Philly and take down the Eagles on Black Friday.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm stoked. It gave me chills earlier when you were talking about the Lions Packers game. And you're like, if one of these teams wants to catch the Bears, ooh, I love the sound of that. Love the sound of being in first place in our division. Love when teams are having to catch us. That feels so nice to hear. But look, they're playing so well. Look, obviously, like we've talked about, they're going to be hard to keep out of any ball game. I think the thing that really goes in the Bears' favor right now, we talk about it, the offensive struggles. What's going on with this offense? And you talk about it. Run game hasn't been hard to stop this year for Philly. It's been that pass game you've had to try and control. Any team that's got three players that combine for 14 interceptions so far this season, I think likes it when you want to throw the ball to them. And that's not having Jalen Johnson, not having Kyler Gordon, who are questionable, be a little bit of a long shot, but they might be able to make it back for this game. Talk about your number one and number two corner. Also coming back in this game would be huge for the Chicago Bears. I think the defense can help contain the Eagles. Not going to stop them, but contain them like they've done all season long. In the biggest moments they contain, and Caleb Williams shines. I'm going to say it. I think Caleb Williams throws for over 300 yards in this game.
Woo!
I've got the Bears, obviously. I'm excited for this game, though. We'll see what happens. But they have the defense to hang in this game. They've got the players to hang in this game. That's what the Bears do. They hang around and they rip your heart out with 2 minutes to go.
Again, if this was last year and the Bears were in 3 with another coach, I'd be like, you know what? I just don't see it happening going into Philly
Yeah.
and doing that. But then you look at the flip in the script, 6-1 in games, 5 points or less, and the turnover margin. I saw that stat and it was just like it's like an eye popper. Like I couldn't believe how wide it was in the turnover margin there. Like you said, I feel confident in the Bears off against this Eagles defense. I don't feel confident in this Eagles offense right now. I mean, who knows if maybe this is the breakout game for Saquon and them, but I'm going to need to see it to believe it for this Eagles run game. So for that reason, I'm going to go with you and pick the Chicago Bears to win this game and move into second place in the entire NFC. But let's dive into some Sunday games, Austin. Couple of games here. Let's start with one in the noon slate. A very interesting one to keep an eye on. You got the 8-3 Colts hosting the 6-5 Texans. From what I've heard, CJ Stroud is expected to be back, but I don't know for sure. Who knows for sure on this one? Uh, Even if he's not, we've seen Davis Mills be able to be good and be efficient. And you got two really talented defenses in this matchup. And you look at it, a Texans win, a Colts loss. This AFC South gets very, very interesting for the rest of the season if the Texans are able to pull it off. Question is, do they do it, Austin?
I think it'll be close. I think the Texans will play them close. I think this is where the Colts kind of catch their footing and they say, hold on, we've got this. I think the Colts come out and they win this game. I think it'll be close, 3-7, somewhere in that ballpark. I think the Texans give them a fight, but I think the Colts hold on because you think about it, it's probably a guaranteed win for Jacksonville this weekend against the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
If Jacksonville wins, Colts lose. It is a tie for first
Yes.
place in this division. I think the Colts sense that pressure. They step up, they rise to the occasion, and they get the win, and they fend off the Jaguars for another week.
You know what? I don't know what it is. Gut feeling. I think this Texans defense is going to make enough plays to win this game. I think this is a low scoring game, maybe in like the 16-13 range, kind of like that, Austin. I'm going to pick the Texans to win this game. I think this defense is playing good. The offense is being efficient. It's not turning the football over. Yes, the offensive line has its worries, but with no DeForest Buckner, I feel a little bit better about that chance for the Texans in this game. So yeah, I don't know what it is. Gut feeling. Going to go with the Houston Texans going to Indianapolis and upset the Colts here. And like I said, make this AFC South very, very intriguing for the rest of the season here. Really, there's not another one in the noon slate. So let's dive into the afternoon slate. And the main game there, Austin, is a matchup of two teams in the AFC just vying to stay alive for the playoffs. You've got the 7-4 Buffalo Bills heading into Pittsburgh to take on the 6-5 Steelers. Aaron Rodgers is expected to play in this game, so I'll treat it as if he is starting. Again, at this point in the season, these matchups with these teams, you don't need to say anything more than you lose this game. This, like you said earlier, you lose this game, you might be thinking, man, if we would have had that one, we'd be in the playoffs right now. And you could end up winning it and be like, if we don't win that game, we're not here right now, whether that be winning a playoff game or being in the playoffs. So, obviously, this is an intriguing matchup for both teams needing the wins. Who wins this one in Pittsburgh on Sunday afternoon?
I like Buffalo. I just don't foresee two bad Josh Allen games back to back. I think he comes out fired up and makes some plays. I think the Steelers defense will help keep this game close. They played a lot better as of late. Definitely give them credit there. I just don't know if Aaron Rodgers, especially now a little bit banged up, if he's going to be able to rise to the occasion against this Bills pass rush that I think has looked pretty good this season. So I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills to win this game, but not by a big margin.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I am a biased person. And for those of you who know I'm a biased person, I'm going to pick the Steelers to win this game. But my mom, who is a massive, Austin, I mean a massive Josh Allen fan, she is going to be rooting against me on Sunday. So this will be a very entertaining game in the Waiter household. I don't know what words will be said here if Josh Allen throws like a game-winning touchdown against Steelers. I don't know. I don't know what will happen there, but I'm going to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this game because I am biased. Now, let's move to Sunday Night Football. Matchup on Sunday Night Football, not going to lie to you. The only reason I'm picking this one is because it's the primetime game and we're putting it on the graphics. You got the Broncos heading to Washington to take on the Commanders. Broncos coming off their bye week. They are looking good. And the Commanders, just been a rough season to say the least with injuries. Jay Nails is progressing well, but he is not playing this week. It will be Mariota once again for him. Let's just say like it is, Austin, and cut to the chase. Do you see any chance of Washington pulling off the shocker and taking down the Broncos this Sunday night?
No, I think they have a chance to keep this game close, but I don't think they really have that much of a chance to win this game. Of course, if the Broncos kind of have a slower start, maybe. I think this would be could be a closer game, but I think the Broncos just have the right pieces. They're healthy. I think they'll be able to win this game.
Yeah, my only word, like you said, is I have yet to really see the Broncos play a full 4 quarters this year. And so maybe there's a part of me, Austin, where it's like 10-3 Broncos at halftime. Like it's a close
Yeah,
game, maybe at 1 point or two. But then the fourth quarter, where they've been really good, I imagine them pulling away and taking down the Commanders here. Last game pick, Monday Night Football. And again, similar to this one, we're doing this one because it is on prime time, and I can post this on TikTok. 10-2 Patriots hosting the 2-10 Giants. This is intriguing, Austin, because if Jackson Dart can't play, we get Jameis Winston in prime time, which is always good television. But if he does play, we see two young quarterbacks who have looked very solid go head to head on Monday night in this one. Any chance at all that you see Mike Vrabel's New England Patriots slowing down at all and falling asleep to the Giants on Monday Night Football this week?
I think the Giants have shown that they possess the power to play close games against good teams and give them a run for their money. But they haven't closed out a ton of those games. So I could see this game being close, but when the time comes, the better team usually tends to come out on top. So I'm going to take the New England Patriots in this one.
Yeah, this is a game where Giants will be in it for 3 quarters, Austin. They'll be up 16-10 or something, like 23-13 enter in the fourth quarter. Patriots will come back and win the game, and we'll be sitting here going again, be like, my gosh, New York, like just finish out one game. Please, we're begging you, just finish out one. So I agree with you. I'll take the Patriots in this game. But final segment here, Austin. It's our favorite. It's everyone's favorite, especially if you've been fading us this season. And that is the Bold Take Podcast Bet of the Week. Obviously, this past Sunday, Seahawks minus 13.5. That one failed at the last second. I was on that one with you, and the Titans scored that last second touchdown. And the Lions, first time ever, they haven't covered in after losing a game. I don't know what's going on. That was my go-to bet. I don't know what to do now. But what do you have for your bet of the week for the NFL this week?
I'm going to go a player prop. I haven't done one of these in a
Ooh.
while. I'm feeling extra about it. I like Sam Darnold over 241 and a half passing yards on Sunday against his former team, the Minnesota Vikings. I think he and that Seahawks receiving core are going to scorch the Minnesota secondary.
Okay, interesting. I love me a good player prop. That's very fair. There's a couple I was considering here, and honestly, end of the day, pretty close one. It's really low scoring, and I know I won't be watching it, but I think it could be easy money if both these teams show up like they have been the last couple of weeks offensively. I'm going to take Falcons and Jets over 39.5. It is a disgusting bet. It is awful. Terrible. But I think it's such a low number. I think both teams can click enough to get over that number. It may be like 41 total points or 40 total points, but I think that the over is going to cash here at 39.5. So that is our bets of the week, ladies and gentlemen. You got a player prop and you got an over in a disgusting matchup. What more could you want? But that's going to do it for this NFL episode. Again, college football episode coming out tomorrow night. It's rivalry week. So many big matchups. So many games, Austin, with playoff implications. We look forward to talking it all. And also, we're in the last week of the regular season. College football playoff rankings come out tonight. Who moves up there? Is the group of five matchup getting a little bit closer for some teams? We're going to find that out and talk about that all tomorrow. But that's going to do it for us here today. That's Austin Hill. I'm Austin Waiter. We want to thank you for watching.